could share maybe a little bit. I forgot to turn on the recording. I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about how managers maybe could have that conversation with people, or how individuals could have that conversation with their managers.
Sure. Yeah, I would say a couple of things. I think one thing is for employees who want to have that conversation with their managers, it can be helpful to go in with a plan in place, and knowing what you want to ask for, and there are places that can help you figure that out too. Job Accommodations Network is one I recommend regularly, that can help you figure out the kinds of adjustments you can make to your workplace that would be helpful. And that could be helpful for the accommodations process as well, but those things additionally work as requests that you can make your manager without engaging in that formal accommodations process. And for managers who want to have that conversation with their employees, I think it's important to make sure that if that you're having that conversation with all of your employees, and not singling people out, right? And so maybe it becomes part of a process, whether that's onboarding, whether it's sort of a regular annual or semi-annual check-in, right? It's identifying those places where it feels like that's a good natural place to have that conversation, and make it a normal part of the process of managing and working with your employees. Does that help answer your question?
It totally does. I really
Great.
like that you kind of make it an ongoing conversation rather than a one-off, and kind of it could maybe feel weird for everybody.
Right, exactly. And the point is that things can change too, right? What might have been right for someone a year ago might be different a year later. And so that's why it's also important to recognize that this is an ongoing process, and not just a one-time sort of thing where you can check the box and say you did it. Rather, it needs to be an ongoing conversation.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your comments on that. Jessica and Meredith, for the two of you, I really loved your idea of having a culture of questioning and like normalizing asking questions from people all across the organization. And I was wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit more to how organizations could make that cultural shift, and if there are different practices maybe that managers could model.
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it can start in small ways, just at like staff meetings. So starting just with your organization, just with the library before trying to take on the entire university. But giving open places in staff meetings to, have those question and answer time. It kind of also goes in, I think, with the mentorship we suggested, is having set times for new employees to meet with their mentor, and having that be just open, free for all. Jessica, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, I think just providing those opportunities for people to ask questions, especially not in large group settings. Those one-on-one mentorship moments, and then one-on-one with the manager, or even using some of our active learning that we know from other parts of librarianship. Like, there's nothing wrong with us doing a think, pair, share at a group meeting, like getting to share those ideas and test them out before you have to share them with everybody is great for everyone.
Yeah, those are great ideas of kind of like lowering the stakes as people get used to it, but then also like having some structure around question asking. I love that. So we did get a question in through the Q&A, and I think this one is for Christine. Do you have recommendations for preventing benevolent discrimination related to disability? Personally, I've avoided coming out about my PTSD because I'm concerned my colleagues might avoid bringing me into projects or promotions as a way to help reduce stress.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I think so often people think they're doing things from a good place, and they can have an unintended consequence. And this, disclosure is a very personal and fraught situation in any workplace. And so, I don't want to speak to anyone's specific situation, because what will be right for one person won't be right for someone else in their context. One thing I think you can potentially do, if you feel like you can have this conversation with your colleagues, is share potentially, or with a manager even, right? Share something potentially about the impact, about what someone might see. So for example, I'm trying to think of one really quickly on the spot here. For example, I might tell my manager sometimes, like if I've been doing a lot of instruction, sometimes I would get to the point where I was really overwhelmed. And so even though I would be very active normally in meetings, there were times when I could not be. And so I would let my manager know, this is what to expect from me. That doesn't mean I can't do other things. It means that sometimes I will not be as engaged as I would normally be. And so I think that's a way to sort of negotiate that process, right? To sort of explain what you might see from me as an employee, and recognize that's not an indicator of what I'm capable of, or what I want to be involved in. So hopefully that helps sort of address that question a bit without making presumptions about people's context and situation.
Yeah, thank you for that thoughtful answer, and totally hard to make up an example on the fly. Appreciate that. Melanie and Sean, a question that I had for you. So I was really appreciative in your presentation that you identified that burnout is also an organizational issue, not just an individual issue. I feel like that's been something we've been talking about all week. And particularly I was thinking about like work-life balance and how that really gets often pushed to the individual. So I was curious if you all had any ideas for what would an organizational approach to work-life balance look like?
I don't know if you want to take this, Sean, or I can start talking and you can chime in.
Yeah, go ahead and I'll jump in.
The research really spoke to this, I think even more than the participants of the survey did. I mean, they mentioned it, but the research really kind of backed that up. And I don't know, I can't say that the different libraries I've worked in, just as a anecdotal personal thing, I'm not really sure that I ever found a successful organizational approach in my own experience. I don't know what you think, Sean. I think maybe it's I asked you what you think and I just kept talking. I think perhaps it is really a top-down approach because the person above me is telling me how important stuff is, that we just all take a step back, and even as a whole organization, to realize that a lot of the stuff we're doing is very important, but it's not an emergency that you have to be up till midnight working on it, or those type of things. And I've been in a culture where everything was an emergency, and that was very much an organizational problem. But yeah, I'm not sure how to do that from where I'm sitting up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I would say, so we asked managers about their typical practices because we collected our data during COVID. So we didn't want to sort of conflate those two things. And around 30% said they offered work from home, which I don't know if that was low or high to like a pre-pandemic time, but I think scheduling autonomy is huge for work-life balance. So being able to split up your schedule, or come in late because you had to take your car to the dealer, or leave early because your kid needs picked up from school, or whatever it might be. So I think scheduling autonomy, especially in a hopefully it's post-COVID world, or a world where we're learning from the pandemic that people can work from home, people can be successful in other ways that can give them work-life balance, flexible deadlines to maybe meet similar things. Hey, I had to be off for half a week because I was helping take care of my grandmother who fell, or whatever it might be. Everyone has family things. So flexible deadlines for projects, and that sort of that understanding from the manager side. It's almost like there's been more of a push in academics that we're going to believe students, right? We're not going to tell them just because you turned in your paper late, you made it up that you're had to go to a funeral or whatever. Similar thing from managers is believe people, sort of understand people have problems and things that come up in their life, give them some scheduling autonomy. Especially we're looking in technical services, so these people are usually not public services facing. Do we really need to hound them to be here 8 to 5 if they need to make an adjustment? So I think just having a better understanding, being a more reasonable person will go far.
Yeah, I really appreciate both of your answers. Thank you. Definitely that humane approach that we would want to give to our users as well. We should turn that internally. All right, I'll give it maybe a few more seconds to see if anyone else has a question. Yeah, Christine's comment that the importance of flexibility come up several times. I think, yeah, that is going to be probably one of our conference themes. All right, well, I'm going to apologize to you again, speaking of flexibility, for missing one of the videos. I'm going to attempt to fix that outside of this session. There's a good comment now from Kiyomi in the chat about capacity and thinking about what that looks like, and having people have the autonomy to, say what their capacity actually is. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. And as a reminder, we do have an option for you to provide feedback for this session. We definitely appreciate you doing that, and we do share that back with our presenters. So, especially nice things. If you're just like, this is great, but I'm not going to fill out the form, change your mind, please. We love that. And that does influence how we will structure this conference in the future. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to all of our presenters again. Thank you to our participants. And we'll be back with our last session of the day at 3:45 Eastern. So we'll end 15 minutes early today at 4:45 Eastern. So wishing you a good rest of your conference, and thanks so much.